Meet Nick Freer, founding director of the Freer Consultancy and one of Scotland's leading strategic PR advisors. With decades of experience advising FTSE 100s, global corporates, and high-growth startups on major transactions, Nick brings unmatched expertise in communications, Manda, funding, and brand positioning. He also writes for The Scotsman and is deeply embedded in the UK tech and entrepreneurial ecosystem.
So you've worked with Scotland's biggest tech successes. What's the real reason Scotland produces so far few scale-up compared to its potential? Because personally, I walk around Scotland, I see a lot of potential. What do you think is the issue?
Well, I think if you rewind 10 years first, that's a good place to start, because 10 or more years ago, we did have big scale-up companies here in Scotland in the form of Skyscanner and FanDuel, also Rockstar North, the gaming companies. But if we think about Skyscanner and FanDuel, they became Scotland's first technology unicorns, technology companies with valuations of over $1 billion, and they both reached that valuation in around about 2014. So you're going back over 10 years ago now. Where we've probably not done so well is replicating companies of that size and success and valuation over the decade since. Although I think people would agree that we might now be at a bit of an inflection point where we can now see a few companies coming through that are showing signs of being able to get to that kind of size if their trajectory and their businesses continue at the rate and the scale and the success that they've had in recent times. So in Glasgow, you could look at a company like Simple Online Healthcare, led by Adi Mohammed, one of the UK's fastest growing digital health care companies. And they doubled revenue or tripled revenue last year. They're on to double it again, at least this year. And we're talking about 150 million, that kind of level of revenue. In Edinburgh, we have a company called Wordsmith, a former Skyscanner executive called Ross McNairn, a former lawyer who's helped to build 3 unicorn companies, 2 of them in Spain, 1 in Scotland. Started a legal AI for in-house lawyers, a startup called Wordsmith about 18 months ago. Within the last year, or within the first year of the company, they reached a valuation of over 100 million, which is the fastest ever technology company to get to that level, 100 million valuation. So, and there's a few others I could name. So it feels like it shouldn't have taken us so long to get to this point, but we're now at it. What is holding Scotland back? One issue we are going to have, and there were a couple of reports out recently, one by Scotland's chief entrepreneur Anna Stewart and one by Shane Christorfen, about the scale-up sort of gap, as they might describe it, whereby we're not producing enough world-beating companies like the Skyscanners of the world, and how do we do that? Talent seems to be the really big thing. We can have great ideas here, we can start great companies here, we have investors that can help fuel the early rocket ship, but when we get to that next level where we want to go international and break into new markets, then do we have the right executives here in Scotland to do that? Are we recycling enough of that scale-up talent, and/or do we need to bring more of it in from other places? And the reality is, we're going to have to do that as well. But it's a bit of a chicken and the egg kind of scenario, where we have to have the big companies that are showing that ambition and that trajectory to success in order to attract the heavyweight talent from London, from the States. So that is probably that inflection point that I just described that we're at the moment.
So does it mean we are at our full potential right now?
Definitely not, because we have a lot of the pieces in place. I think we're here in Barclays Eagle Labs today. This is all about innovation and startups and starting up companies and having innovative ideas. Over the Clyde, on the other side, there's a place called the Smart Things Accelerator Centre, Stack, which does IoT and hardware smart things. Paul Wilson runs that. I did their PR from day one, and what Paul would say is that, again, rewind 3 or 4 years ago, if you were doing IoT or smart things, technology in Scotland, you probably would be able to do a really good degree here, but when you qualified, there wouldn't be an employer of global standing to go and work for. You'd have to go and work for, like Dyson in London or Europe, or BlackBerry in Canada, like Paul Wilson did back in the day. So the idea there is that if we can build the infrastructure through accelerators and physical hubs and mentors and ecosystem builders, that we can help to foster an environment, a foundation on which we can realistically grow these kind of world-beating companies. So yes, we do have the potential, but full potential would be, I wouldn't say we're there yet. There's a lot of hard work to do. Government, get involved to try and help. There's government intervention going on. I mentioned TechScaler. You have banks like we're here at the amazing Barclays campus in Glasgow today. Barclays are doing a lot around innovation and supporting startups and scale-ups, and so it feels like we've got a lot of really good pieces in place. One criticism Scotland does get, I think, from within rather than out with, is that things can be quite fragmented here. We have so many different support groups and organizations and there's quite a lot of overlap between some of them, and it feels like maybe if we could unify more of that, bring more of that under one tent, so that we're all pointed in the right direction, rather than having lots of smaller organizations going in different directions. And I think there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes on that at this point in time.